Yo, peace, peace. Welcome to RockTrue Beatz once again on a cool evening. Let me start y'all off with a wonderful vibe now by the great Ed Robinson.
Ooh, oh, now, now. Oh, wow. Ooh, oh, now, now. I heard him say, Mama, take this badge off of me. I can't use it anymore. It's getting dark, too dark to see. I feel I'm a knocking on heaven's door. And right now, I'm knocking on a heaven's door, boy. Knocking on a heaven's door. Knocking on a heaven's door, boy. Knocking on a heaven's door. I said I gotta put my guns to the ground, yeah. I can't shoot them anymore. You see the long black cloud is coming down. I feel I'm a knocking on heaven's door. And right now, knocking on a heaven's door, boy. I'm knocking on a heaven's door. I'm knocking on a heaven's door, boy. I'm knocking on a heaven's door. I'm knocking on a heaven's door, boy. I'm knocking on a heaven's door. I'm knocking on a heaven's door, boy. I'm knocking on a heaven's door. Will somebody take this gun off of me now? I can't shoot them anymore. Well, the long black cloud is coming down. Yeah, I feel I'm a knocking on heaven's door. And right now,
Knocking on heaven's door. You overstand the great Ed Robinson, knocking on heaven's door. Such a beautiful song and a deep dive into today's discussion. You overstand? Grand evening and welcome to RockTrue Beatz. I am your host, Marley King, also known as Chris Lyon in the herbal field, in the herbal science. You overstand? And we thank you for joining us as we rock truth to absolutely nothing at all. RockTrue Beatz is a cross-cultural response to the lack of choice in music today. RockTrue Beatz is designed to provide a sound message from theory to lab to life, while encouraging the necessity to return back to origin by way of relative keys, his kingdom principle. RockTrue Beatz seeks to inspire, enlighten, and highlight upcoming and established local and international kings and queens, musical artists of character, while promoting kingdom consciousness and awareness of who we are and to whom we belong. Y'all overstand? Enough respect, man. Respect. Glad to be back on a nice, chilly evening out here November the 2nd, Tuesday, roughly 7 o'clock where I'm at. You understand? Chilly evening out this way, man. We're really starting to get into the transition of the seasons. If you didn't feel fall creeping up on you already, it's here to stay. You know, man, it's been a wonderful and exciting past week. You know, even with all the, I guess, for lack of a better term, so-called calamity going on around my circle, you know, with the passing of the great elder, the revolutionary Kumar, my brother Donald. Yeah, man, respect. You know, crossing over transition, you know, 70 something years on this earth, man. It's a long time, you know, to make it around this way. And we just want to pay homage and respect to the ancestors. You know, a man just now was an elder, and now he's in transition to become the ancestor. You understand? It's a deep symbolism there. We must understand. So we raise the glass of some dandelion tea, serious peace, to the elder Kumar, enough respect, passing the torch, and we shall pick it up. The revolution shall continue. Rastafari. Yeah, man. So quite an exciting past week here. You know, we had a lot of stuff going on here with the for-profit organization Ancient Mystic, all natural product or School of the Ancient Mystic. You know, that's me, man, head teacher in charge. You know, overstanding something serious. So we was out up in the Miller Woods. We had a nice group of people we took out there. My little niece came out again. You know, my niece is always like the highlight of the show. You know, the youngest one of the camp and coming out there, man, 5 years old, climbing up in the bush, man, and picking mushroom and harvesting up herb and medicine. And such a beautiful thing, man, to be able to teach the youth and to show other folks, you know, the way as well. And hopefully in turn they pass down the same teachings to the youth below them. You know, it's always about the saying, each one teach one, and we must reach one is always of utmost importance, you see. So nonetheless, we took a walk up in here in Miller Woods. You know, that's right up here by Lake Michigan, up by the lakefront. See, we followed the trail off and went up the trail a little ways, maybe about a quarter mile or so, and then we ventured off to the right and started going off trail into the bush. Started following the game trail down there. So we start going up into the bush, man, climbing the sandhills and finding all type of beautiful medicinal and edible mushrooms, things like oyster mushrooms, honey mushrooms. There was some chicken of the woods left out there as well, which is one of my personal favorites. You know, we found quite a bit of those out there as well, but they was a little bit too far gone. You understand? You know, sometimes we get a little too far in the winter months. Same thing with spring. You know, we only see the mushrooms coming around spring and fall, and that happens to be when the climate or the temperature, the environment is perfect for these spores to set seed. You know, mushrooms are unlike plants, meaning that they like to take spores to set the seed rather than using their seeds being produced by the plant. If you understand what I'm saying. You see what I'm saying? The mushrooms, they like to have that cap, and when the cap opens up on the right dry day is when all them spores start to release and get taken off into the wind and such, and blow to many other places, many other trees, and different environments where the offspring will pop up when the temperatures are right again. You know, it's such a beautiful thing, Mother Nature, I tell you. So nonetheless, we harvesting up a lot of different mushrooms. We're on the search for some turkey tail mushrooms, which are some nice anti-cancer mushrooms, powerful cancer fighters, and there's a lot of research to back those up too, man. So y'all check them out. Turkey tail mushrooms. You never think Mother Nature would provide such, man, but it's all too evident, especially when you understand the the history of Western medicine, or we'll just call it Western medicine, the system. You understand? Because before that, which this came around in roughly the 1900s, before that, starting in around the 1800s, and before that, since the beginning of time, man has been using Mother Nature and the remedies that she provided, and all these teachings have been passed down from grandmother to grandmother, and in turn, we still rep the teachings around that time until good old John D. Rockefeller, one of the wealthiest oil, what we call oligarchs in the world. You understand? The whole Rockefeller family have played some serious parts in the formation of this country, and a lot of the wicked atrocities that happen here, even to this day. You see what I'm saying? So John D. Rockefeller, back in the 1900s, man, we talked about this last week a little bit. Got together with Andrew Carnegie after he took some of his money from the oil stocks, that he was making over there, and he invested it in his pharmaceutical companies called IG Farben out of Germany, and in turn, he got in touch with a guy named Andrew Carnegie, and these cats put together what they call the Flexner Report. And the Flexner Report came about, I think it was 1925, roughly around that time, 1925, 1930. And what had happened was, in this report that they submitted to the Supreme Court or Congress, they listed all the reasons why medicinal medicine, pharmaceutical or Western allopathic medicine needed to be practiced and installed in universities and become the universal teaching of all medical facilities around the United States. And eventually, his plan was to take this worldwide, and we'll get into that here momentarily. So he took the money and invested it into a pharmaceutical company named IG Farben, which in the 1925, I believe the merger was, that happened with Bayer AG. Okay, many of you, may know Bayer aspirin. Okay, this is a big monopoly right here. Okay, Bayer aspirin, it controls a lot of things in the industry right now. Especially the medicinal world. So watch out. Nonetheless, IG Farben merged with Bayer, and that became the parent company to all of that. So if you're looking for IG Farben, it's Bayer aspirin or Bayer AG right now. Something serious. Nonetheless, he invested the money into IG Farben, and after he did that and got this Flexner report passed, all of the universities that were teaching medicine were not allowed to teach any other type of medicine unless they were teaching that allopathic, westernized medicine, I guess you say, pharmaceutical medicine, which is what a lot of the pharmaceuticals were being derived from byproducts of oil. So look at the web right there. Look at the connection. How this man in the oil stocks found that, hey, I could make some money off of coal and its byproduct as well, and we can make pharmaceutical and make these synthetic forms of the medicine that Mother Nature finds. And it's interesting because we think about coal in general, and where does coal come from? It's called a fossil fuel for a reason, because it comes from the decaying fossils of we'll call it carboniferous plants or creatures or things, meaning that they contain a lot of carbon. So things like horsetail, one of the medicines that we use, and we find all in a lot of swampy or wet areas, even up here by the beach, by the dunes, we find horsetail. And I wish I had a specimen here with me today. I have to bring some tomorrow. It's been a little busy week for myself. I mean, next Tuesday, excuse me. Nonetheless, I'd like to bring a sample of that. But the horsetail used to grow roughly like 20 foot tall. Okay. And this thing was rich in carbon, and it's very good for us because it contains a lot of silica, which is beneficial for and essential for the building blocks of teeth, hair follicles, bones, fingernails, things of that nature. So silica is a really beneficial body for the body. Or excuse me, really, y'all gotta excuse me. It's a little chilly out here, man. So my tongue might be getting twisted up a little bit, but it's a really beneficial medicine for the body. And we utilize it, like I said, for the building blocks of certain things like hair, bone, and teeth and nails. So it's a serious piece, and we like to use it for bath. It's really soft on the skin. It has nice anti-inflammatory properties as well. So another great piece of work right there. I really enjoy her. She's always helped me throughout my injuries. Nonetheless, this plant breaks down into carbon, and then that carbon gets recycled into the soil. And throughout the carbon cycle, if y'all understand it from the science class, get in tune with Dr. Ock the hour before me, RockTrue Science, and she put you on game, man. She already did something beautiful earlier this year, where I had to talk about the different cycles like that. Nonetheless, the carbon breaks down and in turn became the coal. And the coal was being mined up and used for what do we do? We drive our cars everywhere. It's used for gasoline, man, and wicked things of that nature. Things that's destroying the planet, have to be mindful of that. So anyways, he found the way that he could make and profit off of all of that such. So they started telling the universities, we're not going to give you funding. We're not the American Medical Association. Okay. This is who controls the funding and stuff that goes to the universities, the American Medical Association, which in turn has something to do with John D. Rockefeller once again. So look at this, man. You follow the money and you shall find the answers. The paper trail is always utmost important, man. You need to get out there and do a little more research. When we ask those questions, type it in on Google and see where it takes you, man. And then in turn, read some books, watch some video, and understand the world around you, because it's a bigger world than what we see and what's broadcasted on the news all the time, So make sure you open your eyes to that. But they say we're not gonna fund these universities and their medical programs unless they're teaching the doctrine that we set in place. So they put them in a pickle in a sense. You choose to side with us, or you don't get to teach in the universities. So while that was going on, there's a lot of stuff going on while all of this is going on. John D. Rockefeller is notorious for doing stuff like this, and the Rockefeller family in general. Okay, so while all this was going on, we started to see a lot of what was being taught previously, which was things like herbalism, naturopathic medicine, osteopathic medicine, holistic medicine. You see, things of this nature that really dealt with the human health in itself. And this was really meant to cure the body. This wasn't meant to profit off of people, and their sicknesses and their illnesses. which is what was overstood during the formation of a lot of these pharmaceuticals. Yeah, maybe it's the intentions of the workers that's creating these things, that they're under the guise that they're creating these things to benefit mankind and humanity, but it's totally the opposite. They're tricked and bamboozled, like a lot of us, into thinking that, hey, what I'm doing is right for the planet, but they're not the ones calling the shots. They're just the workers. We always have to look at the pyramid scheme there. There's always somebody at the top that's calling the shots like this, man, and putting things in motion, not to benefit us, but to benefit people's pockets. These wealthy cats are some sinister individuals. Once you get some money, man, well, hence the reason they say money is the root of all evil. Money is the root of all people as well. You see, how many people that could survive without any money? That's a really tough feat to accomplish. Now we have to put that into perspective. But they started jailing these people that was these doctors that had been for decades prior practicing naturopathic and herbalism and other medicines of that form. So to see them cats being jailed and ousted, man, it should go to show you the intentions behind what was what was going on with this whole allopathic medicine coming into play, man. You know. So as that started being put into place, man, we started to see a shift in what was going on in the world, and you think by like the 50s and 60s and 70s, we started seeing these different illnesses or diseases coming around, and they always got something to take care of that, and it's never to cure it. And they've been searching for the cure for a lot of these things for years, man. When the cure is actually in Mother Nature, Mother Nature recycles. When something comes, it could easily be rid of. It's simple as that. This is an overstanding when you just step out into the forest, man, and start to get in tune with and get in one with Mother Nature. Hence the reason I be sipping my dandelion tea this evening time. Not only is it warm and keeping my body nice and good, but this dandelion root tea is great for a lot of other things. It's a natural electrolyte right there. It contains some beautiful amounts of potassium in there. Nice source of iron right here to keep that blood flowing, to keep you nice and full and warm, make you feel good. It work as a nice diuretic. So people who are having issues with the kidneys, she like to work hand in hand with them. We don't want to drink too much and then just constantly, have to go to the bathroom. But nonetheless, you get a couple of cups of this a day, and we'll really start to see how it works on us. And it works really beneficial with the liver. So people who are dealing with things like cirrhosis or fatty liver, this is a really beneficial piece to be taken into the body. And the wonderful thing about it is you could eat the dandelion roots too. How many things that you can consume as a food and as a medicine as well, to get the medicine, a food and a tea as well, in order to get the medicine into the body. It's universal, such a beautiful thing. But there's so many more properties. Great anti-inflammatory agent, so people dealing with things like gout, gout comes from a buildup of uric acid in the bones and joints and stuff like that, man. I know a lot of people that deal with gout, especially at young ages, and I'll be wondering, like, what the heck are these people eating? What's their diets like? A lot of people's diets are filled up with a lot of convenience food, or what we call fast foods. People go out looking for something because they're on the go, ripping and running like myself all the time. Not saying that I make the excuse to go get some fast food, but a lot of people do, and they don't respect the house of the Lord, the body, the temple, as they say. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people got to understand that. We have to make sure that we feed the body right and we take care of it. This is the vessel. This is just what is harboring the spirit, the soul. What is harboring the soul. The soul travels on. And that's what we're going to get into here shortly, man. We be diving a lot of different directions when it comes to this, man. But it's so much to say. It's so much to talk about, Nonetheless, yeah, we get a lot of great medicines like this in the fall time, man. So it's important to get these things in the body and really get back on track with the naturopathic way of doing things. And we could dive deep. I'm trying not to dive so deep, man, because we got other things to talk about. But just where this goes with IG Farben and Bayer and the Rockefellers and allopathic medicine. He tried to take this overseas after he established this in the United States, and he went to China and tried to establish this. But, China was too busy dealing with their traditional Chinese medicine, their own herbal remedies over there. And nobody was really paying attention to their pharmaceutical company that he started up over there, So anytime you see the Rockefeller Foundation, participating in something, always question the motives. What's going on, and dive a little bit deeper. Things always look beautiful on the surface. People have a great way of deceiving people by talking a good hype. Everybody a politician in the sense, man. I deal with people like this all the time. Everybody say, yeah, I'm coming through. I'm going to get my hands dirty. this, that, and the other. But a lot of people just always just like to talk the hype because it sounds good in the moment to everybody, to their ears, to us, it sets a vibration, the spirit. Everybody feels uplifted, when the time comes, who can you call? Who's going to be there? A serious piece, man. Nonetheless, we want to say, like I said, great transition for the other Kumar, and he was a great character, man. He always had a lot going on in his mind, and he was a very revolutionary figure, and swindled millions of dollars from the government, and did some prison time over that. And when he went and spent this time in prison, um, they whooped him and they beat him in there. I'm talking about the prison guards and such, man. And because he was a revolutionary, so they treated him like a peasant and just destroyed him in there and hurt him. And he got sick from the food and stuff in there. So when he came out, so many years later, it was a tragedy to see the way his health had declined, and he had a stroke while he was in there. So he came out, and he wasn't like super stroked out, but he was a little bit debilitated when he walked and stuff like that. But he gained his strength back. He's he's an old time man in his 70s, man, can do some pull-ups and such, man. It was pretty impressive. Um, Nonetheless, man, it just make me wonder about the afterlife, or the transition of the soul. After the body dies, after the vessel becomes deceased, which way does the soul go? I know there's some folks out there that say nothing happens after that, man. It's just emptiness. It's blank. Would the atheist man say that? There's blank. There's nothing that happens. I mean, I don't understand how you could say something like that when we could feel so much around us, but that's what they say. You see me? You got some people that say the afterlife is dictated by what your spiritual practice is. If you practice Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, I mean, there's so many different practices out there that people practice. So is your afterlife dictated by what you practice, by what you learn, by what you study? There's other people that say life works in a cycle, in the sense of reincarnation. Like the Buddhist philosophy talks about the cycle of reincarnation, and that's a very deep one. There's a lot of credential research to back up a lot of these different beliefs right here, and we never really understand the afterlife until we cross over, until we transition. We can always speculate, but there is the exception of the people who have had near-death experiences, NDEs as they call them, near-death experiences. And these near-death experiences are just as what the word says it is. It's something that occurs when we have an accident and the body is in a coma, or it dies for a period of time, and the soul travels on and reaches like this this void, I guess you'd say, and when they come back, to the body, to the physical body, after they have died, they come back a different person altogether, with a different frame of mind, a different understanding, a different appreciation for life. And there's many different ways to interpret this. We're looking at it from a standpoint where, we're really just relying on what teachings are telling us and things of that nature. None of us truly get to have experiences like this. I mean, the closest that I've come to having an interpretation of this, I guess, would be with my use of psychedelic. You understand? When we use something like a LSD, or what they call mushrooms, magic mushrooms, as some people say, which is used in a lot of different native cultures for vision quest, and to open up the mind and to take away that void between the physical realm and the spiritual realm, to give a better understanding. When we think about our bodies and our brains are just like generators. The brain is not the soul. The brain doesn't harbor the soul, but the brain is what powers the vessel that harbors the soul. You see what I'm saying? So the brain is like a generator, and think of it like a radio. The brain is like the radio, and the soul is like the frequency. So you could take a hammer and you could smash the radio up and break it into 1,000 pieces, but it still doesn't mess up the frequency. It only bashes the brain. So think of that if somebody crosses over, You know, somebody has a tragic accident and crosses over, or somebody just happens to pass or cross over. The frequency is still there. The soul is still there. You know, that is not changed. It's not manipulated. And that particular frequency from a radio is just waiting for another radio to turn it on so that that frequency could be picked up in that radio there. So this kind of, um, you know, throws into perspective of what, when people talk about reincarnation, you know, when we think about how there's documentation of some children that'll be just flipping through a book and or looking at something on the television with their mother, and the child will say, hey, I remember being there, and I remember this airplane that I was flying in, and I remember, you know, the airplane crashing, and I remember, you know, my life living with my wife over here and there and this, that, and the other. And for these youth at 4, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, some are a little bit older, like 8, I think 8 years old may be the maximum that they've documented. But when you become that old in time like that, man, you know, when you're only 8 years old and you're having a recollection of somebody else's lifetime, you know, like I was just talking, man. You know, maybe he was flying in the airplane and the airplane crashed, and he remembered his life before that, the jobs that he held and the car that he drove. You know, he's having all of these flashbacks and recollections, and then it fades away after some time, you know. It's kind of it's a kind of a trip to look at, because you know we're thinking that, you know, we're just in the body and that we go to the kingdom afterwards, you know. But who's to say we're not living in the kingdom? You know, who's to say we're not living in hell? Who's to say we're not living in dungeon? Although these are just words rather than ideologies, it's still something to put into perspective. But we see how reincarnation could be looked at like that, as a cycle. And they talk about in reincarnation in Buddhist philosophy that, you know, during the cycle of reincarnation, you can come back as something else, you know, and it happens so quick that that you don't even get the chance to really hold on to what was going on in the previous life before you was reincarnated, in a sense. So if we're coming back, supposedly in the reincarnation, we're coming back in order to learn a new lesson from a different perspective. If you come back a dog, then you come back to learn the lesson of obedience and see things from a different perspective. You think that you think of the way that dogs and animals see in general. They see from different perspectives, and they pick up on different levels of audio and things of that nature. They got heightened senses. So we're coming back in these different vessels. You know, the soul travels on to come back in another vessel in order to understand these lessons, so that the soul can continue learning and evolve, and then eventually it gets into a vessel to where it could become its highest form, its best form. And I think it's a very, very interesting concept to play with. You know, there's a lot more information and research that we could dive into regarding that, but that's just to break it down and give you a gist of it. So it's pretty interesting nonetheless. You know, other people talk about when they cross over that they see, you know, some people talk about they're sitting down in hell in a jail cell with fires burning around them, and the devil poking them with a pitchfork and stuff like that. And you know, is that truly going on? You know, are people experiencing this? And this kind of touches back to what I was talking about when it comes to somebody who's practicing certain forms of religion. You know, is the afterlife kind of invoked? Is it does it become biased? You know, is it influenced because of something that we're learning, something that we're practicing? Why are other people having different experiences, you know, when it comes to these near death experiences throughout these different forms of religions and different cultures and such, you know? It's a pretty interesting piece to think about right there. You know, I always like to have that stuff way heavy on my head. It really tends to enlighten me, especially when you know, over these past few months, as I've had some significant folks in my life cross over, you know, and some not so significant folks cross over in my life over the past couple of years as well. It's been pretty heavy, but you know, we all got to transition on, and I think it's important to not fear death, man. Not fear the afterlife. Don't fear the unknown. A lot of us tend to fear the unknown, and to fear the unknown means, you know, you're lacking the adventure. You know, It should be an adventure that we're embarking on. The next transition. Think about when we reach the top of the roller coaster. And we reach the top of the roller coaster, your heart jumps, and you get this feeling in your gut, and then the roller coaster drops, man, and you go downhill. And you feel that rush, that adrenaline, that weightlessness, and infinite, man, something serious. So oh, y'all have to excuse me, man. It's a little chilly out here. I'm trying to keep my composure, man. I'll be switching up location here in the next week or so, man. So I'll be in a more indoor setting, and things will be a lot easier for me to adjust to. I got my scarf, got my big car hat on, and everything, man. But we're just adjusting to the seasons, man. Just as we adjust to anything else in this world. Part of living. Yeah, man. So, nonetheless, man, we don't want to fear death. Okay, we want to be mindful of it, and do as the ancients ones did, and live to embrace the afterlife and prepare for death. You know what I'm saying? Prepare for the afterlife. You live your whole life in order to prepare for that. And a lot of folks that come back from these near-death experiences, they tend to have a complete different outlook. There was a director of what the heck's his name, man? I forget off the top of my head, man. Got a habit of doing that. When it comes to a lot of Jim Carrey movies. He was the director, the screenplay writer for a lot of these, and he made so much money because they were dropping movies back to back to back to back. He made so much money and had pretty much everything he'd ever want. And he was riding a bicycle one day and had a tragic accident somehow, and so he had this near death experience. And when he came back, he gave up everything he had. He talked about it. He said he became so humble, and he overstood empathy, I guess you say, because he overstood suffering, and he overstood the feeling of to have nothing from everybody else's point of view, and he began to embrace, to have nothing and want to just give to everybody. He became the giver. He came back a whole new man with a whole new outlook on life. Because think about it, our minds are really tainted when we come into this particular world, man. We come into this such a perverse world, and the first thing we experience is pain. It should never be like that. It's such an unfortunate piece. But we come into this world, and the first thing we experience is pain. It should never be like that. When we come into the world like that, it tends to have an effect on the rest of the development of ourselves throughout, our early childhood years. And we will start to go into this system where things aren't the way they're supposed to be, and it takes away from the natural form of everything, the natural law of how we're supposed to be living. We're not meant to naturally be in this world to work a 9 to 5 and get up every day to do this, that, and the other. That's not innate. It's supposed to be something that is it's supposed to be something that is more so relaxed, and you're living and you're overstanding life and you're going through the motions, to have time to soak in the beauty around you. It's such an industrialized world like that, man, where it just keeps us on the rush and keeps us out of tune of a lot of these things, which leaves room for manipulation. All in all, at the end of that. A great book that I'm starting to read right now, man, and it's got a lot of great stories up in here. It's called The Ways of the Lonely One, and one of the great stories in here. One of the great stories in here. It's the very first one. It's about the huntsman. So the huntsman is at the base of the mountain, and he's being told by all the people around him about the story of the old wise man who lives up into the mountains, and nobody's ever seen him in decades, man. He disappeared, and he's supposedly a myth, a legend. And so nonetheless, and he just lives off the land and at one with the animals, and one with Mother Nature. So the huntsman hears all of this and gets his bow and arrow and gets everything ready to go up there. Y'all have to excuse me, the dog barking out here, man. So he gets his bow and arrow and he starts to hit. So he gets the bow and arrow and he starts to head up. Cállate, cabrón. So he's at the base of the mountain and he has the bow and arrow and he starts to head up the trail. And he's walking around there. He's looking for game that he can hunt and such, man. And he finally reaches of I don't know, we'll call it a peak of about 1,000 feet. And he sees this cabin off into the woods. It's kind of like a little clearing, and then it goes out to a prairie or the meadow. But he sees the cabin up there, and So he reaches the cabin up there, and he's looking around, and he sees a deer out there, and he says, okay, now it's time for me to go ahead and slay the deer. So he knocks his arrow back, and he gets ready to shoot the deer, and he feels a hand laid upon his shoulder, and when it's laid upon his shoulder, though, he turns around and to gasp in amazement, and he sees the old wise man, the myth, the legend that was told to him at the base of the mountain. And when he's seen him, the old wise man says, why do you try to kill my deer? And the huntsman says, your deer? And the wise man say, yes, anything that is used properly, anything that is used properly, excuse me, anything that is used properly and for its natural way is innately somebody's property. The purpose of it is utilized and it's respected, then it becomes his. The old huntsman says, how is this your creature, your possession? And the wise man, it does something peculiar. He puts his hand out to the side and does a beautiful whistle of a couple of notes, little frequency, and the deer gallops on over to him and licks his hand and rubs his head up against his hand. And the old man steps down and whispers like a song, like a note, some whistles into his ear, and the deer reacts in such a jubilous fashion, like it's something that just touched its heart. And the wise men tell him, is this not my property? Is this not my creature? Somebody who uses Jah creature for its divine purpose is the owner of this particular property. So then a squirrel comes around. A squirrel comes around with a nut, and takes the nut and puts it into the old man's mouth so he can eat it, And then the squirrel jumps on his shoulder and sitting there with him, And he says, is this squirrel not part of my property? Because, as the squirrel brings me food and excuse me, let me get on to the wolf part real quick. With the wolves, so there's a wolf that came up, man, and the huntsman thought that the wolf was gonna attack him. The wolf was growling and stuff like that, and the huntsman says, yeah, he's growling because this is what has been installed in him since the beginning of time, maybe even since the time that man came around on the planet 240,000 years ago. He's installed a fear of man inside of him because he believes man is out there just to kill him, not to respect him, out to kill him, out to take one of his offspring, out to take a brother, a brethren, a sister, So he tells that to the huntsman, this is why he growls at you, and this is why he doesn't growl at me. And the old man calls the wolf over, and the wolf comes over and takes it easy with him, allows him to pet him, something nice without him biting him. He even placed his hand inside of the wolf's mouth, and the wolf didn't bite him. Whereas if anybody else would have did that, the wolf would have tore him to shreds, maybe even took his life. So he says, is this not my property? Is this not inherently mine? And the huntsman was in disbelief, and the old man tells him, these animals provide this and that for me and provide protection for me. And in turn, I provide housing for them in the winter months, for the wolf's cubs. I provide food for the deers, I provide, different building material for squirrels and such, He lives at one with them, provides water for these particular creatures during the time of droughts, So it becomes something serious to look at in a perspective like that. The old man was living at one with Mother Nature, He never set out with the intention to harm any of these things, Mother Nature provided all the food for them, and the animals would bring that to him. And when the animals brought him food, he would help them out by providing for them in return, and not killing them, allowing them to live on, allow them to flourish for generations, to have the understanding that every animal is somebody's brother or sister or son or daughter or mother or father, is to have respect for the land and respect for Mother Nature. It's maybe a tough concept to process at this day and age with all the distraction and such, man, and the out of tuneness, for us not being out in Mother Nature like that, the way we was innately supposed to be. So the the huntsman was very shook by this. He started to weep, and he says, "Old man, I understand what you're talking about. You know, I understand." And he said, I promise that when the time comes when you cross over, because the old wise man tell him, hey, I'm looking for somebody to take over the cabin, and take over my spot, you know, when I cross over, because my time is limited. Not everybody's um, promised tomorrow in a sense. And the huntsman says, yeah, I'll be the one to go ahead and come back and take care of the cabin and take care of the animals and live off the land at one with Mother Nature. So Huntsman travels back down the mountain, and he had somehow gotten word that the old man was sick and he didn't have much longer to live. And so he started hiking back up into the mountains. By the time he got there, he seen all the flocks of animals, like a funeral procession, flocks of animals coming to the funeral over here. Where the old man was laid out on his bed, or it wasn't a bed. He was laid out outside on some type of altar that they had created. Don't ask me who created it. Maybe the animals. But he was laid out on the altar like that, and yeah, the squirrel was over there trying to nudge a nut in his mouth, and was screeching at him because he wasn't opening his mouth to take it. So the squirrel was biting him a little bit, and he wasn't reacting. The birds were over there singing and crying, this, that, and the other. The deer, they gave off like this look or feeling of somberness, of sadness. And the same thing with the wolves. The wolves, gave kind of like their cries, not their howls, but their cries. Gave off the cries, and this really shook the huntsman. And the huntsman really understood now what the old wise man meant about taking care of the ones around you. Always look out for the creatures around you, the creatures of Mother Earth. Mother Earth. If we serving Jah, if you're serving a Jah, then you serve as a protector, as a keeper of Mother Nature as well. And it's such a deep story, man. There's a lot of other deep stories in there too. I'm just starting to embark on the journey with inside the book, but yeah, it gives you a lot of reflections on life and a lot of different overstandings and different perspectives. A very philosophical view. Peace, peace. Yeah, Selena, it's a cold evening out this way, man. Yeah, man. You know how it be, making it happen. But yeah, great read. Y'all should pick it up. I'll put it up there again. This is The Ways of the Lonely Ones by Manly P. Hall. And like I said, let me see how many pages this is, man. That's about 135 pages. So it's got some nice short stories in there, something that'll really invigorate the mind and invigorate the feelings and such, man. So yeah, it's a deep piece. Another thing I wanted to touch on, man, is we're talking about RockTrue Beatz here, man. We'll talk about musical concepts of music. A lot of folks nowadays, they just making music. A lot of these artists out there just making music just to make music. A lot of the stuff doesn't even make sense. There's no storytelling in it. There's no truth to a lot of it. A lot of it's just mumbling garbage, talking about killing folk. And yeah, y'all know the scoop. I don't need to give the rundown. A lot of that wickedness out there. For me, it's a lack of creativity. But we think about concepts, and where do concepts come from? Concepts come from the stimulation of the mind, from different ideas, from different experiences that we have in life, and we could always look at the positive side of things. We don't have to bathe in the negative so much. Yeah, there's a lot of bad situations, but there's ways to talk about them to where it ain't so negative, because there's a lot of light things in the world, and when we put light out there, we're going to in turn affect the power of the people. When we put a lot of wickedness out there, I mean, listen to a lot of evil music, listen to some sad songs, and see how that makes you feel. We have to watch out for stuff like that. Music is a weapon at the same time. And this is understood on many levels of the game, man. From the people that's making the beats in the studio to the artist that's over here writing these what we call raps. And I think that's from a lot of lack of guidance. We don't have a lot of the elders out there to put forth the teachings, and I blame a lot of that on society, man, and on the the powers that be, in a sense, because they shaped and molded the world for it to be like this, for us to lead us into a path like that, man, to where we don't We don't think, we don't understand. They start jailing folk away, man. They start infiltrating the streets with crack and making nothing wrong with alcohol, but they start causing people to abuse alcohol because they're taking away certain substances, or they over here making people work these crazy jobs for minimum pay, and they just need to take the edge off. So it's something to keep in mind when we're thinking about the weaponization of music. And we need to get better at these concepts, man. Come up with concepts, man. Think about uh we'll talk about a song called "It's Too Late" by the Stylistics. Now let's talk about "People Make the World Go Round." Or you want to talk about "Payback is a Dog" by the Stylistics, man. You know, these songs are talking about things that happen between man and woman, or relationships with people and mankind. How how people make the world go round, and just the daily interaction, and how we're hustling bustling out in the streets. Ah, man, y'all need to search that song up, man. People Make the World Go Round by the Stylistics, man. It's just a talk about everyday life. That's all it is, man. What a wonderful concept, talking about what's making the world go round. If everybody stopped working, if everything stopped for a second, would the world really stop? It's a good question to ask. Ask yourself now. But yeah, these concepts like that, man. If we could get better at finding ways to create that, man, and in order to get our minds stimulated like that, we need to be having more conversations about things going on in the world. We need to do more traveling. I think lack of traveling is causing a lot of people blockage in the brain. When it comes to having different musical concepts. And even we can even call it lack of money. Lack of funds. Because a lot of people are stuck in poverty. When you're stuck in the poverty, like so, man, your mind is in a particular place. This is the reason that they're trying to get. We always be rambling off topic, man, but y'all just follow me as we diving deep in the rabbit hole. You understand? But we think about that, and take a sip of some dandelion tea before I go on my rant. We think about that, how we have how they're trying to destroy what we call the middle class. The middle class is like us worker peoples, working in the industries, and that make these millionaires millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? And we get the scrapings, the bottom of the barrel, the peanuts. And so we're the middle class. We're the people that make the world go round, like the stylistics was talking about. So without that middle class, the middle class are like the people that think, and that could, when there's something that's trying to get put into play, the people in the middle class can say, nah, I don't think we should do that. They're the opinionated people. They're the ones that are like the distraction for the great plan of the elites. You know what I'm saying? The grand agenda, the grand deception. So with the middle class being there, it takes away from from the ability for the world to go in a particular direction. So that's the reason that they're trying to eliminate a middle class right now. And you can see that by all these different mandates and stuff going on right now, because this is affecting a lot of people's livelihoods. If you don't take a vaccination, then you cannot work in this particular field. You cannot have this job. And a lot of these people are middle class players. You know what I'm saying? So if you're gonna do that, that's gonna diminish the middle class, and there's so many other things that go along with that, man, and how this is affecting people's livelihoods, and taking away from that middle class, you know, because think about it. Since the beginning of time, when it comes to peasants or lower class citizens, you're more easily controlled. You tend to obey people more. You'll tend to listen and take direction from what's being projected to you, from what's being told to you. You tend to follow that scheme or that regime. You're just easily manipulated and controlled when you're in that lower realm or that lower class of income, as they say. And it's so unfortunate it's like that, man, because it doesn't need to be like that. And I found this very hypocritical and very unnerving. Somebody had some balls to scheme on the folks like this. But think about supermarkets, man. All right, keep supermarkets in mind, and I'll tell you why in a second. Now let's talk about Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and these other billionaires and stuff like that. So a particular study came out. Don't ask me how true the study is. To me, that's trash, man. They need to slice and dice that thing, set it on fire, because it makes no sense at all. But they say it's going to take $6 billion from each one of these guys in order to stop world hunger. To solve the food crisis. Now, when you go to a supermarket, if you go out there on a particular day, once when they're rotating stock and inventory, go in the back by the big dumpsters and see how much food has been thrown away. Good produce that is able to still be consumed. There's nothing wrong with it. Maybe you got a bad berry in there or something, or a blemish on one of these things, but they throw these things away. Even things that don't look perfect, they throw them away. Know what I'm saying? If you got a blemish on a pear or on an apple or a potato or something, or greens, maybe you got one soggy leaf, they throw all that stuff away. And all of this stuff can still be consumed. There's nothing wrong with it. If you just discard that one leaf, if you take out that one berry, all this stuff could still be eaten. But there's tons of this stuff that's being thrown away in supermarkets all across the nation and all across the world. And think how unfortunate that is. Think how wasteful that is. Think of how wasteful human beings are in general. You got all of these supermarkets out here with tons of produce that's going to waste. And we say that there's a food shortage or a food crisis. You got to be out your mind to even be thinking like that, man. Where's the nonprofit organizations coming at? Where the nonprofit organizations at? They should be coming to these different supermarkets with a truck and saying, "Hey, let me get all this stuff before y'all throw it away." Let me take this stuff and distribute it out to the people. I'm not charging nothing. I'm distributing this. Give it to the homeless cats, man. Think about all the clothes that are thrown away. Yeah, we think about goodwill and things of that nature, but if the people you need to get back on their feet, they don't have the funds for this stuff. Where's the people at that can give this stuff? We need folks that's going around, soldiers on the ground that's going around and providing for folks like this, man. You're not going to be able to save everybody. I know a lot of these cats are too far gone because the the homelessness, the mentality that happens when you get tossed in the streets like that. It redevelops the chemistry of your brain. That's why you see a lot of crazy folks, man, talking to themselves, hallucinating, hunger, things of that nature. It's such a wicked piece. How many people that pass the homeless by and don't even look in their eye? Have to be mindful of things like such. But if we had organizations like this going around, man, and providing for people, which is something that I'm looking to get into, and I'm looking into, acquiring some type of box truck like that where I could go around and do that. I already got a nonprofit organization, but this is something to really reflect, our mission, our understanding of what we're out here to do, our purpose, our Nia. Once again, one of the 7 principles of the Nguzo Saba, Nia, purpose. We got to have a purpose with these things. And for folks to be throwing stuff in the trash like that, man, I find it so unfortunate. And to come out with such an asinine statement like that, make you wonder. Don't even make you wonder. It show you what the mindset is of the peoples, man, of these elites, And we wonder why we're in the planet that we're in. How many people that where they sleep? Y'all know what I was about to say. Think about how many people that where they sleep. This is the reason that back in the day they had outhouses. You didn't use the bathroom inside, you used it outside. We're the only creature on this planet that does that. Mother Nature don't do that. It's such a trip. But this is how humans are bred, man. This is the kind of mind state that we're projected to walk into since birth. Not too many people can talk about this stuff like that. I mean, a lot of people could talk about it, but how many people take action on such like that? I think it's very important that we all try to find a way to contribute to society. We all have a bigger part to play in the solution. We all represent a small fraction of the solution. And you have to identify with yourself, are you part of the problem or the solution? And there's no playing both sides of the table. Many people hate the way that I talk, because I don't play that 1 foot in, 1 foot out stuff, man. You can't do that. It's not righteous, man. It does not go for the people. You're either for the people or against them. When you're discarding food like that, intentionally, consciously, and not giving it to the people that need it, your children. What does that make you? It make you a wicked man, and you're doing it consciously. A wicked man. Yeah. So I just found that appalling. As I was having some reflections and thinking about some things in the grocery store the other day. How many things go to waste, man? And when they put out that statement about the billionaires, needing 6 billion apiece, what type of malarkey is that? Somebody is talking out the side of their neck, and for people to blindly believe that, What does that make you? Something to think about, man. Whew. Nonetheless, man, it's been quite an eventful day for myself, man. Been lacking a little bit of sleep and such. So it's time to give me some rest here in a little bit, man, and catch up on some Z's and tuck myself in, have a nice ginger tea to relax myself through the evening. But before we get out of here in the next 5 minutes, I want to drop a nice verse on y'all. This goes with that beautiful Ed Robinson we played, "Knocking on Heaven's Door," earlier at the beginning of the show. And this is just paying it's just a nice verse paying respect to the elders and the ones that have passed the teachings down, man. So here we go. Let me run this joint for you here. We'll give you the chorus real quick, man. Here we go. All the kings come together, listen to the birds singing sweet songs of melancholy, bells, tolls the bells are ringing, transition of an elder now becoming ancestor, preparation for the afterlife. And we go with the verse for y'all, man. Paying respect to the elders and homage to the ancestors. It seemed the more I gain, the more I'm losing. We lost the elder Kumar on October 25th. He transitioned to an ancestor. Excuse me while I light the split for personal ceremony. For every elder that crossed over, I love you, man. The teachings you left to help me carry on tradition, fight the beat to the death. And if I never told you, I want to say how much I thank you for the laughs. Serious moments politicking by Babylon and all the teachings of world and black history. I couldn't be who I am today, a man with greatness, honor, and loyalty, love and respect. You help to shape and mold another warrior for battle. The life you lived is the one of infamy. Give you revolutionary status. You fought the war from the beginning. Now you're passing the torch. I must carry on tradition. All the kings coming together, listen to the birds singing. Songs of melancholy, bells, tolls of bells are ringing. Transition of an elder, now become an ancestor. Preparation for the afterlife. We tell them, then all the kings come together, listen to the birds singing. Sweet songs of melancholy, bells, tolls of bells are ringing. Transition of an elder, now become an ancestor. Preparation for the afterlife. We lost the homie J Lo back on August 23rd. I was searching for you for months until the bird brought me the word of your untimely passing, man. The news, it was the worst. I've always questioned the company you kept. Was the worst of money, jewels, and fast cars, material wealth? Remember when we had nothing, so the pressure you felt to travel back to Pensacola and establish yourself. But tell me how the hell the crooked do right. You jump right back in the game, and all the while the man, the people live in shite. You must have forgot Pimp C. Be in the daylight with the flashlight. You're loyal to the game, but the game showed no love. The middleman was you, and now you suffer the consequence. I wish I could have been there to steer the ship in the right direction. Believe in reincarnation, so therefore life's a lesson. You coming back in new life form. We celebrate and mourn the life and death, the rebirth upon the earth, and all the kings come together. Listen to the birds singing sweet songs of melancholy. Bells, tolls, the bells are ringing. Transition of an elder, now become an ancestor. Preparation for the afterlife. Tell them that all the kings come together. Listen to the birds singing sweet songs of melancholy. Bells, tolls, the bells are ringing. Transition of an elder, now become an ancestor. Preparation for the afterlife. Yeah, man. Enough respect, man. New track coming soon. All the kings. You see me? Got one more verse on there, but I gotta save y'all just a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Always notorious for leaking my stuff, but I can't be no leaker. I got to be confidential with it, man, and have patience, man, because in due time, drop some serious rhymes for your mind, online at the right time. You understand? It's something divine. RockTrue Beatz, man, it's something serious right there. Yeah, man. So nonetheless, we want to say enough respect to everybody tuning in, man, and give thanks for everybody out there in my life right now, man. We're getting prepped for the winter months. It's about to be something serious. We see which way the world is going, and there's the future is uncertain. So we must prepare for the now. Let's not dwell in the past. Let's not get caught up in everything that's going on. All the distractions out there. Let's not get caught up in all of the distractions. Let's make sure we focus, have more mental focus, and focus on focus on what we have to do as an individual to play our part in the solution. What is your purpose? Question that. What is your nia? What is your purpose? And we got to have imani, faith. And we got to use our creativity, kuumba. See, it's something serious, man. When we allow these certain things to resonate, man, it really gives us that drive, that understanding of what our intentions are here up on this planet. I don't think anybody really knows what man's purpose here is on the earth, but what is your purpose? What is the sole purpose of yourself being here? We also dive deep inside. They say man when God created the spirit, he didn't put it on land because man would look. He didn't put it in the ocean because man would have looked under there. So he put it in the one place that Man never tends to look, which is inside, and never look inside himself. But always make sure to look inside yourself for the for that divine purpose, man. The soul, the spirit, man. You know, it's hiding inside you. We just have to find it and unlock it, man. Something serious. Hey, enough respect, man. Give thanks for y'all tuning in. About to go catch me some Z's. Hey, man, next week we're going to be in a different location. So be in tune for a live show. And it's about to be a lot warmer, especially compared to where I'm at now. We had a measly 41 degrees, probably dropping as I speak, man. So it's time for me to go shower up and warm up the body, get myself right for the rest of the week here, man. So, hey, man, give thanks for tuning in to RockTrue Beatz. Marley King, peace and one love.